Welcome to a special report from the Human Error News Network. Today, we're launching a rigorous investigative safety audit of a tragedy that absolutely shook a nation, the devastating April 27, 2026 Bekasi train disaster. We're going to completely deconstruct exactly what happened here. And we're not just doing this to look at the wreckage, we're doing it to figure out exactly what we can do to detect, prevent, and correct human error before it turns fatal.
So how in the world does a single, seemingly isolated event, literally just a car stalling out on an empty road, cause a massive 110 km/h train crash miles away? I want you to think about the invisible safety nets in your own daily workflows. You just assume they're going to protect you from a simple human mistake, right? You assume the system has your back. But what actually happens when the system itself is the thing that's broken?
Look, the reality is we all share this vulnerability. We rely on neglected fail-safes every single day. We trust that a red light means stop, and we trust that an emergency protocol is going to trigger the second things go wrong. But this explainer is going to show you exactly how fragile that illusion of total safety really is. Okay, let's dive right into this and begin our collaborative audit of the Bekasi disaster.
Section 1, the Fatal Domino Effect.
All right, to truly understand how systems fall apart, we have to slice through all the noise and look at the exact sequence of failures. As expert auditors today, we need to trace the dominoes back to the very first piece that fell. It's 2040. An electric green SM taxi stalls out at an unmarked level crossing on Ampra Road. Bam! It's struck by a local commuter line train. Now, thankfully, no one dies in this initial collision. But this relatively minor, non-fatal hiccup forces that commuter line to make an emergency stop down the tracks at Bekasi Timur station. Then, fast forward to 2052. The Argo-Bromo Angrek intercity express train rolls into that exact same station, totally blind to the stalled commuter trains sitting right ahead of it. 5 minutes later, at 2057, it slams directly into the rear of it.
And guys, here is the terrifying metric behind that impact. 110. That is exactly how many kilometers per hour the Argo-Bromo Angrek express train was going. And why? Well, the driver claimed he actually received a clear proceed signal at the previous station. This wasn't some slow-speed bump, okay? This was a high-speed, absolutely unforgiving collision right into a stationary target.
Section 2, Response, Recovery, and Remembrance.
Now, before we get back into our interrogation room to look at the mechanical and human failures, we have to pause. We must acknowledge the heavy humanitarian toll this exacted. After the collision, emergency responders, including the Base RNS Search and Rescue Agency, worked relentlessly for nearly 12 hours. They were literally out there using angle grinders to cut through mangled metal just to free trapped passengers. Behind this systemic failure is a profound human tragedy. 91 people were injured and 16 lives were lost. And there is a deeply somber reality to these fatalities. All 16 victims who lost their lives were women. Why? Because the rear carriage of that commuter line, the one that took the direct telescoping hit from that express train, was a designated women-only compartment.
In the immediate aftermath, the humanitarian response kicked into high gear. The government and insurance agencies scrambled to prepare compensation packages. We're talking 90 million Indonesian rupiah for the families of the deceased and up to 50 million rupiah set aside to cover the hospital costs for those injured survivors.
And the community's response, it was just deeply emotional. Mourners and commuters set up this beautiful, temporary memorial right there at Bekasi Timur station, leaving bouquets of flowers and messages for the people who perished. 7 days after the crash, the National Railway Operator, KII, actually held a tahlil dhikr, which is a collective Islamic prayer, right there on the platform. It was a necessary pause to honor the victims before the hunt for accountability fully took over.
Section 3. Human error or system failure.
Okay, honor demands answers, so we have to pivot sharply right now and ask the really tough questions. Was this just a tragic one-off human mistake, or was it a symptom of a deeply flawed system? Initially, the Jakarta Metropolitan Police zeroed right in on human error. Their investigation heavily scrutinized the drivers. They specifically wanted to know if the Argo Express driver negligently blew past a red stop signal on what's known as an open block system, which is basically a setup where a stopped train ahead is supposed to automatically turn the signal red for the train coming up behind it.
Now contrast that official angle with the stance from the Indonesian Transportation Society, or MTI. Dedi Herlambang points out a glaring vulnerability here. The system was not truly fail-safe. Think about it. If human negligence in reading one single signal can cause a mass casualty event, then the communication technology itself is fundamentally inadequate.
And honestly, the most chilling part of all this,
They've seen this exact nightmare before. This incident bears a terrifying similarity to the 2010 Petarucan train crash. In that disaster, the exact same train service, the Argo Bromo Ongrek, rear-ended a stationary train, killing 36 people. The fact that history repeated itself 16 years later tells us the root cause was never truly fixed.
Section 4. Auditing the systemic flaws.
I want you to think about your own organizational systems for a second while we look at the expert recommendations born from this tragedy. How many of your safety nets are just waiting to fail? MTI demanded an immediate safety audit across multiple fronts. First, they pushed to investigate that green STME electric taxi. Did a magnetic field or some weird technical glitch cause it to stall right on the tracks? Second, they called for rigorous fatigue management and simulator training for drivers. Third, a massive top-to-bottom audit of the Central Railway Travel Controller to see how trains are actually being monitored in real time. And finally, establishing crystal-clear emergency standard operating procedures for drivers when vehicles stall out on the tracks.
Then there's this major recommendation: track segregation. The Bekasi to Cikarang line currently forces the slow, frequently stopping local commuter trains to share the exact same tracks with high-speed intercity express trains. It's a recipe for disaster. Experts highlighted the absolute urgent need to accelerate the double-double track project to physically separate these two entirely different types of traffic.
Section 5. Engineering a fail-safe future.
Look, just identifying the flaws isn't enough, right? We have to build a roadmap for a fail-safe future. We have to empower ourselves to demand better systems, systems that actually anticipate human frailty, instead of just punishing it. And the most damning revelation of this entire audit is the absence of ATP, or automatic train protection. Despite a 2014 ministerial mandate requiring its installation, this vital failsafe was just missing. If ATP had been active, the Argo train would have automatically slammed on the brakes the second it violated a red light. It would have completely overridden any driver error, any distraction or fatigue. The train would have stopped.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate takeaway from this explainer. On the left side, you've got how many organizations operate: reactive safety protocols, just waiting around for a disaster to happen and then hunting for the human to blame. But the right side is where we need to be: predictive risk-based management. That means building technological fail-safes that just assume human error is going to happen and preventing it from becoming a catastrophe. It requires a massive cultural shift where safety actually beats schedule punctuality every single time.
We've tracked the dominoes all the way from one stalled taxi to a completely shattered train and uncovered a system that left its drivers and passengers entirely unprotected from human fallibility. But I want you to consider this. You've just seen the danger of missing safety tech. But what actually happens when the fail-safes are installed, the sensors are active, and the safety technology itself is the thing feeding you a lie? You've been watching a special report from the Human Error News Network.